Hello, my friend, and welcome back to my channel Sleep Beneath History. I'm very happy that you are here to spend another quiet evening with us. Before we begin our slow journey into the past, I would like to ask for one small favor. If you enjoy these peaceful history stories, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment to tell me where you are listening from, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps our little community continue to grow, and it allows many more sleepy travelers to discover these calm walks through history. Now find a comfortable place to rest. Perhaps pull a blanket a little closer. Let your shoulders relax. Take one slow, gentle breath, and allow the busy sounds of today to slowly drift away. Tonight, we are traveling to a kingdom that many people have heard about, yet very few truly know. It was not the largest empire in history. It was not the richest. It did not leave behind giant pyramids or towering stone temples. Instead, it quietly watched over some of the busiest roads in the ancient world. It stood between great civilizations. To the south lived powerful empires. To the east stretched endless grasslands. To the west waited distant kingdoms. To the north lay deep forests and wide rivers. Right in the middle of all these places lived a people called the Khazars. Their land was known as the Khazar Khaganate. For hundreds of years, merchants crossed their roads. Soldiers guarded their borders. Travelers rested in their towns. Different languages mixed together in busy markets. Different religions shared the same streets. People from many corners of the world met beneath the wide sky of the Eurasian steppe. Yet today, the Khazars remain one of history's quiet mysteries. Many of their buildings disappeared long ago. Much of what they wrote has been lost. What we know comes from travelers, merchants, neighbors, and archaeologists who patiently uncovered forgotten traces beneath the earth. Tonight, we are not searching for great battles or loud victories. Instead, we will take a slow walk through everyday life. Imagine that you have become a traveler. Your horse moves at an easy pace across the endless grasslands. The wind is cool. The sky feels larger than anywhere you have ever been. There are no tall mountains blocking your view. No crowded cities rising into the clouds. Only rolling grass that seems to continue forever. The steppe is peaceful. It stretches far beyond the horizon. Small flowers sway gently in the breeze. Birds circle high above. In the distance, a herd of horses quietly grazes. You hear little more than the soft movement of grass and the steady footsteps of your horse. As the sun begins to rise, its warm light paints the fields with gentle shades of gold. The air smells fresh. Morning dew shines like tiny jewels upon every blade of grass. Far away, thin streams of smoke rise into the sky. Someone is already preparing breakfast. Families are waking inside round felt tents. Children are rubbing sleepy eyes. Dogs stretch beside the campfire. Horses shake their long manes. The day is only beginning. This was a familiar morning for many people living across the Khazar lands. Life here followed the rhythm of nature. The seasons decided almost everything. Spring brought new grass. Summer filled the plains with grazing animals. Autumn prepared everyone for colder days. Winter covered the land with snow and silence. People learned to move with the seasons rather than fight against them. The steppe was not empty. It was full of life. Countless animals wandered across it. Wild deer moved carefully through patches of woodland. Foxes searched quietly during the evening. Large birds floated high above the open fields. Small rivers twisted across the landscape like silver ribbons. Fishermen waited patiently along their banks. Travelers stopped there to fill water skins before continuing long journeys. The Khazars understood this land very well. It gave them freedom. Their horses could travel quickly across the open plains. Their traders could reach distant cities. Their armies could appear almost anywhere. But tonight, we are not rushing with armies. We are simply visitors. We have all the time in the world. Imagine that your journey has lasted several peaceful days. Each evening, the sky becomes brighter with countless stars. Without the lights of modern cities, the heavens seem endless. The Milky Way stretches across the darkness like a glowing river. Campfires gently crackle nearby. Someone quietly tells old stories. Another traveler softly sings a simple song carried away by the wind. The horses rest close together. Everything feels calm. Everything feels slow. As morning returns, your road slowly becomes busier. You begin meeting other travelers. A merchant guide, several camels carrying silk from the east. Another leads wagons filled with furs from the forests far to the north. A family moves together with sheep and goats toward fresh grazing lands. A messenger rides quickly past, carrying news between distant settlements. No one seems surprised to see strangers. These roads have welcomed travelers for centuries. The Khazar Khaganate stood beside some of the world's greatest trade routes. Goods from China, silver from the Islamic world, honey from northern forests, fine cloth from Byzantium, beautiful glass, strong iron tools, spices with wonderful smells, precious jewels. Every season brought something new. Trade was the heartbeat of this kingdom. Instead of building an empire through endless conquest, the Khazars became masters of connecting people. They watched the roads. They protected merchants. They collected taxes from those passing through. In return, their cities grew rich and lively. But wealth was only one part of the story. What made this kingdom truly unusual was the people themselves. The Khazar lands welcomed many cultures. Turkic nomads, Slavic farmers, Jewish merchants, Greek craftsmen, Arab travelers, Persian scholars, Christian priests, Muslim traders, people who followed old steppe traditions. All could be found somewhere within the Khaganate. Different languages floated through busy marketplaces. Different foods cooked over evening fires. Different clothes added bright colors to crowded streets. It was not always perfect. No kingdom ever is. But compared to many places of its time, the Khazar world was remarkably diverse. As we continue our journey together, we will slowly meet these people. We will visit their homes. We will share simple meals beside their fires. We will walk through lively markets. We will listen to distant musicians. We will quietly observe kings, merchants, shepherds, fishermen, children, and travelers as they go about ordinary days. Sometimes we will visit grand cities. Sometimes we will spend quiet evenings beside lonely rivers. Sometimes we will simply watch the wind, moving through endless fields of grass. History often remembers only famous rulers and great battles. But tonight, our attention belongs to ordinary people. The woman preparing bread before sunrise. The child learning to ride a horse. The old storyteller warming his hands beside a fire. The fisherman checking his nets. The blacksmith shaping glowing iron. The merchant counting silver coins. These are the people who truly filled the Khazar world with life. As the morning grows brighter, our path slowly leads toward one of the great settlements of the Khaganate. From far away, you can already see movement. Boats float along a broad river. Smoke rises from many homes. Wooden buildings stand beside colorful tents. The sound of distant voices mixes with the cries of birds flying overhead. Our long journey is only beginning. There are many peaceful miles still ahead. Many stories remain hidden along these ancient roads. Many quiet mornings are waiting for us beneath these endless skis. So settle in comfortably once again. Let your breathing become slow and easy. Allow your imagination to wander gently into the world of the Khazars. And as the day begins in this remarkable kingdom, we will take our very first slow steps toward discovering the people who once called this wide and beautiful land their home. The morning sun has now climbed a little higher into the wide blue sky. Its light spreads gently across the grasslands, warming the cool air that settled during the night. The dew still sparkles on the tips of the grass, but little by little, the warmth of the day begins to dry the tiny drops away. Our horse continues at an easy pace. There is no need to hurry. This is not a race across the steppe. It is a peaceful journey through one of the most remarkable landscapes in the medieval world. Imagine that you are breathing the fresh morning air. There is a clean scent of grass, a hint of damp earth, a faint smell of smoke drifting from a distant camp where breakfast is being prepared. The only sounds are the steady rhythm of hooves, the whisper of the wind, and birds calling to one another as they glide across the open sky. It is difficult for modern people to imagine just how large this land truly was. The Khazar Khaganate did not grow inside a valley surrounded by mountains. It did not depend on one great river alone. Instead, it stretched across a vast part of the Eurasian steppe, where the horizon seemed almost endless. If you stood on a small hill, you could look in every direction and see nothing but waves of grass rolling toward the edge of the world. There were very few tall buildings, very few forests, only the great sky above and the open earth below. To many travelers, this landscape felt empty, but to the people who lived here, it was full of life. Every gentle hill had a purpose. Every river crossing mattered. Every patch of fresh grass could feed hundreds of horses. The Khazars understood these lands better than almost anyone else. Long before maps were carefully drawn, they knew where the rivers flowed after heavy rain. They knew where travelers could safely cross. They knew which valleys stayed green even during the hottest summers. Knowledge of the land was as valuable as gold, perhaps even more valuable. As we ride onward, we begin to notice the many rivers that gave life to this kingdom. One of the greatest was the Volga River. It flowed for thousands of kilometers, carrying fresh water through forests, fields, and grasslands before finally reaching the great inland sea that we now call the Caspian Sea. For the Khazars, the Volga was much more than a river. It was a road. Instead of wagons, boats carried people and goods. Instead of horses, strong currents helped travelers move from one settlement to another. Merchants loaded their boats with honey collected from northern forests. Others carried wax used for candles. There were furs from beavers, foxes, and squirrels, fine cloth, metal tools, salt, grain, beautiful glassware, silver coins. Some boats arrived carrying spices, whose sweet smells drifted across the water before the ships even reached the shore. Imagine standing beside the river early in the morning. Mist rises gently above the water. Wooden boats rock softly against simple docks. Boatmen quietly untie ropes. The gentle splash of oars breaks the peaceful silence. A fisherman checks his woven nets. Nearby, children watch the boats with curious eyes. This quiet river is already full of life long before the rest of the town fully wakes. The Volga was not alone. Many rivers crossed the Khazar lands. The Don River flowed toward the Black Sea. Smaller streams connected villages, camps, and grazing lands. These waterways were like threads in a great woven cloth, tying the kingdom together. Travel by river was often easier than crossing the endless plains. When the wind was kind, boats could travel surprisingly far. When the rivers froze during winter, people found another kind of road. Sleds glided across the thick ice, carrying supplies between settlements. The changing seasons shaped every journey. In spring, rivers swelled with melting snow. The current became stronger. Travel could become dangerous. Summer brought long days and busy trade. Autumn painted the grasses with soft shades of gold and brown. Winter transformed the entire world into a landscape of white silence. Each season demanded different skills. The Khazars learned them all. Now imagine looking beyond the rivers toward the southern horizon. There the land slowly changes. The air becomes warmer. The grasses grow thinner. Dry hills begin to appear. Beyond them lies the Caspian Sea. Although we call it a sea, it is actually the largest inland body of water on Earth. Its shores stretch so far that they almost disappear into the distance. For many people living in the Khaganate, the Caspian Sea was both familiar and mysterious. Fishermen worked along its coast. Merchants sailed upon its waters. Travelers arriving from Persia or the Islamic world often crossed the sea before reaching Khazar lands. The sea connected many different cultures. Goods arrived from distant places that most local people would never see with their own eyes. Silks from the east, jewelry from southern kingdoms, beautiful pottery, perfumes made from flowers growing hundreds of miles away. Every arriving ship carried not only goods, but also stories. Stories about faraway cities, stories about kings, stories about strange animals, stories about deserts, mountains, and oceans that seemed almost impossible to imagine. People have always loved stories. The Khazars were no different. As evening meals were shared around campfires, travelers often became the center of attention. Children listened with wide eyes. Adults smiled quietly while repairing saddles or cooking supper. Some stories were certainly exaggerated. Others may have been completely true. No one could always tell. But every story made the world seem a little larger. As we continue our peaceful ride, small groups of wild horses appear in the distance. They move together with quiet confidence. Their manes dance in the wind. Young foals stay close to their mothers. The Khazars admired horses deeply. A horse was much more than transportation. It was a trusted companion. Many children learned to ride almost as soon as they could walk. A skilled rider could travel astonishing distances in a single day. Messengers carried important news across the kingdom. Merchants guided long caravans. Hunters searched for game. Families moved their homes with the changing seasons. None of this would have been possible without strong and healthy horses. The steppe itself almost seemed designed for them. Wide open spaces allowed them to run freely. Fresh grass covered enormous areas during spring and summer. Even today, horses remain one of the great symbols of these ancient grasslands. The Khazars also depended on many other animals. Large herds of sheep provided warm wool. Goats gave milk. Cattle supplied meat and hides. Camels appeared on the southern trade routes, carrying heavy loads across long distances. Dogs guarded camps during the night. Falcons sometimes accompanied skilled hunters. Every animal had its place in daily life. Nothing was wasted. Life on the steppe encouraged careful use of every resource. Wood was not always easy to find. Stone suitable for large buildings was limited in many areas. People learned to build using the materials around them. Felt made from sheep's, wool became one of the most important building materials. It covered the large round tents that travelers often call yurts today. These homes could be taken apart, loaded onto wagons, and rebuilt whenever families moved to fresh grazing lands. It was a practical way of living. Instead of forcing the land to fit their needs, people adapted themselves to the rhythm of nature. This flexibility became one of the Khazars' greatest strengths. Imagine stopping beside one of these camps. Children laugh while chasing each other through the grass. Women prepare bread over a small fire. An elderly man carefully repairs a leather saddle. Nearby, young riders practice guiding their horses in wide circles. The smell of fresh milk warming in a cooking pot fills the air. A gentle breeze carries soft voices across the open plain. No one seems hurried. The day unfolds at its own quiet pace. Hospitality is important here. A traveler arriving peacefully is often welcomed with food, water, and a warm place beside the fire. Life on the steppe could be difficult. Tomorrow, anyone might become the traveler in need of kindness. Helping strangers was not only generous, it was practical. As the afternoon sun slowly begins its journey toward the western horizon, long shadows stretch across the grasslands. Golden light covers the rolling hills. Birds settle near the rivers. The air becomes cooler once again. Another peaceful evening approaches. Our journey across the land of the Khazar Khaganate has shown us something important. This kingdom was not built because of magnificent stone cities alone. It was shaped by rivers that carried trade, by grasslands that fed great herds, by horses that crossed impossible distances, by families who understood every season, by travelers who brought news from worlds far beyond the horizon. This remarkable landscape was more than the setting of Khazar history. It was its very foundation. And as the light slowly softens and the first stars prepare to appear above the endless steppe, we too continue our gentle journey. Because tomorrow, our quiet road will lead us toward the first great settlements of the Khazar people, where camps slowly gave way to busy towns, lively markets, and one of the most fascinating capitals of the medieval world. As the evening grows peaceful once again, let us ride onward, one slow step at a time. The evening settles gently across the steppe. The bright colors of the afternoon slowly fade into softer shades of amber and blue. The long grasses sway quietly in the cool breeze. And the last birds of the day glide toward the safety of reeds growing beside the riverbanks. Our horse walks a little more slowly now. There is no rush to reach our destination. The journey itself is part of the story. Ahead of us, a broad river reflects the fading light like polished silver. Its surface is calm, broken only by the gentle movement of fish rising now and then beneath the water. A small wooden boat drifts quietly toward the shore, where two fishermen are already preparing to end their day's work. Imagine stepping down from your horse. The ground beneath your feet feels cool after the warmth of the day. The air carries the fresh scent of water mixed with wild grass. Nearby, someone has begun lighting a small evening fire. Thin ribbons of smoke rise peacefully into the quiet sky. For the people of the Khazar Khaganate, rivers were far more than beautiful places. They were lifelines. Long before railways, highways, or airplanes, rivers connected distant worlds. A merchant standing beside the Volga River could eventually send his goods hundreds of miles away without ever placing them on a wagon. The water itself carried them. Large wooden boats floated downstream with the current. Others were carefully pulled upstream by men or animals walking along the riverbank. The journey was not always easy. Strong winds sometimes slowed progress. Hidden sandbanks could trap heavy boats. Storms appeared with little warning. Yet compared with crossing endless stretches of open grassland carrying heavy cargo, the rivers offered a remarkable advantage. They made trade possible on a scale that surprised many visitors. Imagine arriving at a busy river landing just after sunrise. Mist still hangs over the water. The first rays of sunlight shine through it, creating a soft golden glow. The quiet of dawn does not last for long. Boatmen call to one another. Ropes creak as vessels are tied to wooden posts. Horses drink from the river while waiting for their loads. Merchants open carefully wrapped bundles to check that everything has survived the journey. One crate contains fine silk woven in distant eastern workshops. Another holds beautiful glass cups from lands near the Mediterranean Sea. Nearby are heavy bags of salt, barrels of honey, bundles of soft animal furs, iron tools, leather goods, and silver coins packed safely into small wooden chests. Every object has traveled a long distance. Every object carries a story. The Khazars understood something very important. People will often travel great distances if they believe the journey is safe. So they worked to protect many of these trade routes. Soldiers watched important crossings. Officials collected taxes from merchants passing through. These taxes helped support the kingdom. Instead of taking wealth only through war, the Khazars often earned it through peaceful trade. This made their lands attractive to merchants from many different cultures. As the years passed, more people chose to travel through Khazar territory. That meant more goods, more news, more languages, more ideas. Imagine sitting quietly beneath a tree near the riverbank. You watch as travelers arrive from every direction. One group speaks a language you have never heard before. Another wears clothing made from brightly colored cloth. A man leading several camels smiles politely before continuing toward the market. A monk carrying only a small bundle pauses to fill a wooden cup with cool river water. Children stare with curiosity at strangers from distant lands. For them, seeing visitors is almost an ordinary part of life. The Khazar Khaganate stood between several powerful worlds. To the south lay the wealthy cities of the Islamic caliphates. To the southwest stood the great Byzantine Empire. Beyond the eastern grasslands lived many Turkic peoples. Farther north stretched forests where Slavic communities and Viking traders traveled along winding rivers. The Khazars found themselves in the middle of these worlds. Rather than becoming isolated, they became connected to all of them. This meeting of cultures gave the kingdom a very special character. A merchant arriving in a Khazar town might hear Greek being spoken in one corner of the marketplace. Nearby, traders bargain in Arabic. Others speak Turkic dialects. Some use Hebrew. Still others speak Slavic languages. The marketplace becomes a gentle chorus of voices from many lands. Although people cannot always understand one another perfectly, trade finds its own language. A smile, a careful gesture, a handful of silver coins, a nod of agreement. Business often succeeds even when words are few. As the afternoon passes, delicious smells begin to fill the air. Fresh bread bakes over small clay ovens. Fish caught only hours earlier roast slowly above glowing coals. Someone stirs a pot of warm stew. Another prepares fermented milk, a familiar drink among many steppe peoples. Travelers who have been riding since dawn welcome the chance to enjoy a simple meal before continuing their journey. Imagine sitting beside them. You accept a wooden bowl of warm food. The flavors are simple but comforting. The conversation is gentle. One traveler speaks of snowy forests far to the north. Another describes deserts where rain may not fall for months. A sailor tells stories of rough waters on the Caspian Sea. Whether every detail is true hardly matters. The stories themselves are part of the journey. Evening arrives once more. The marketplace slowly becomes quieter. Merchants cover their goods with cloth. Animals are fed and watered. Boats tied along the shore rock gently with the movement of the river. Children who spent the day running through busy streets now grow sleepy. Mothers call them home. Small lamps begin to glow inside houses and tents. Their warm light flickers softly against the growing darkness. Above everything, the stars slowly return. Without city lights, the night sky seems almost endless. People living in the Khazar lands knew these stars well. Travelers used them to guide long journeys across the open plains. Shepherds watched them while guarding their flocks. Boatmen followed familiar constellations when rivers became difficult to navigate after sunset. The heavens were not simply beautiful. They were useful. The night itself became another companion on the road. Imagine lying beside a small campfire. Your blanket keeps away the cool evening air. The fire crackles gently. Somewhere nearby, a horse quietly grazes. You hear insects singing in the grass. The river flows steadily beside you. One by one, the conversations around the fire become softer. Someone quietly hums an old melody. Another traveler adds a few gentle words to an ancient tale. The flames slowly shrink into glowing red embers. The stars shine even brighter overhead. For many families living across the Khazar Khaganate, evenings like this were familiar. Life followed the natural rhythm of daylight and darkness. Without electric lights, night encouraged rest. People rose early because the sun asked them to. When darkness came, the world naturally grew quieter. It was a slower way of living. Perhaps not always easier, but often more closely connected to the seasons and the land itself. As our own peaceful journey continues, we begin to understand that the rivers, roads, and grasslands were not separate parts of the Khazar world. They worked together. The rivers carried trade. The roads welcomed travelers. The grasslands fed the horses. The horses connected distant towns. The towns supported the markets. And the markets brought together people from every direction. Like threads woven into a beautiful carpet, each part strengthened the others. Without the rivers, trade would have slowed. Without the horses, communication would have become difficult. Without the open steppe, the kingdom could never have grown into the crossroads that it became. Tonight we have followed the quiet flow of the rivers. Tomorrow, our gentle walk will carry us beyond the riverbanks and into the growing settlements themselves, where the simple camps of travelers slowly transformed into lively towns filled with craftsmen, merchants, children, storytellers, and visitors from every corner of the known world. So let the sound of the flowing water stay with you for a little while longer. Let the stars shine peacefully overhead. And together, we will continue our slow journey into the heart of the Khazar Khaganate. Morning returns slowly to the wide grasslands. The eastern horizon glows with soft shades of pink and gold. A cool breeze moves across the steppe, carrying the fresh scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Tiny birds begin their cheerful songs, welcoming another peaceful day. Our camp is beginning to wake. The last glowing embers of last night's fire are gently stirred back to life. Someone adds a few dry branches, and soon thin curls of smoke rise quietly into the still morning air. A kettle hangs above the fire. Fresh water begins to warm. Nearby, horses stretch their legs after a restful night. They shake the dew from their coats and lower their heads to graze on the rich grass around them. Imagine sitting quietly with a warm wooden cup in your hands. The morning feels unhurried. There is no noise except soft voices, the crackling fire, and the distant call of water birds from the nearby river. As breakfast comes to an end, our journey begins once again. Today our path leads toward one of the growing settlements of the Khazar Khaganate. Unlike the great stone cities of the Roman world or the towering capitals of China, many Khazar settlements blended naturally into the landscape around them. Some were small villages beside rivers. Others were busy market towns. A few became important centers where thousands of people gathered throughout the year. From a distance, the settlement appears almost peaceful enough to disappear into the surrounding grasslands. Thin columns of smoke rise gently into the sky. Small wooden buildings stand beside round felt tents. Livestock graze outside simple fences. Children are already awake, running happily between homes while dogs lazily follow behind them. As we ride closer, the quiet sounds of daily life slowly become clearer. Someone is chopping wood. A blacksmith hammer rings softly in the distance. A woman sings while grinding grain into flour. Geese wander freely across an open yard. The smell of baking bread drifts through the morning air. It is not a grand city. It does not need to be. This settlement is alive because of the people who call it home. Many Khazar communities were built close to rivers for a very practical reason. Water was essential for drinking, cooking, washing, fishing, and transportation. Nearby grasslands provided excellent grazing for horses, sheep, goats, and cattle. The rivers also connected these settlements with distant towns hundreds of miles away. Everything was linked together. Nature decided where people lived. Rather than forcing the land to change, people learned how to work with it. As we enter the settlement, the streets are simple. Some are little more than well-worn paths created by countless footsteps and wagon wheels. There are no perfectly straight roads. Instead, the paths gently curve around homes, workshops, and open spaces where animals rest. The ground beneath our feet is firm from years of use. Children wave politely as strangers pass. Curious eyes follow travelers, but no one seems frightened. Visitors are common here. Trade has made these communities welcoming places for newcomers. Imagine walking slowly through the settlement. The first building that catches your attention belongs to a carpenter. Outside his workshop lie carefully stacked pieces of wood. Some will become wagon wheels. Others will become furniture. A few are already being shaped into sturdy boat oars. The carpenter works patiently. Every careful cut matters. A mistake wastes valuable wood. Nearby sits a potter. His hands gently shape wet clay upon a simple wheel. Slowly, almost magically, a plain lump of earth becomes a graceful cooking pot. After drying in the sun, it will be placed inside a hot kiln until it becomes hard enough for daily use. Each pot is slightly different. Each carries the small marks of the craftsman's hands. Nothing here is made in great factories. Everything reflects the quiet skill of individual workers. Farther along the street, we hear the steady rhythm of a blacksmith. His workshop is warm even on cool mornings. Inside, glowing iron rests among bright orange coals. With calm, practiced movements, he lifts the metal using long tongs. His hammer rises and falls with quiet confidence. Each strike slowly changes the shape of the iron. A horseshoe, a knife, a farming tool, a nail. Simple objects, perhaps, yet each one makes everyday life easier. The blacksmith is respected because his work supports almost everyone else. Without his tools, farmers cannot prepare fields. Carpenters cannot build wagons. Horse riders cannot travel safely over long distances. As we continue walking, we reach an open square where merchants have begun arranging their goods. The market is still quiet. Only a few customers have arrived. One trader unfolds brightly colored cloth. Another carefully places carved wooden bowls on a table. Nearby hangs leather bags made by skilled craftsmen. Bundles of wool wait to be sold. Jars of honey catch the morning sunlight. The sweet smell seems to drift through the cool air. A fisherman displays his fresh catch upon damp reeds. Silver fish shimmer as though they were made of polished metal. Nothing is wasted. Everything has value. Trade here is not only about luxury. Most people come to buy what they truly need. A stronger rope, a better cooking pot, a sharper knife, warm wool for winter, salt to preserve food, seeds for planting. Life depends upon practical things. The market simply brings them together. Imagine listening carefully. You hear many languages spoken around you. Some conversations are lively. Others are soft and thoughtful. Merchants smile politely while discussing prices. Children laugh as they chase one another between stalls. A donkey complains loudly after carrying heavy loads since sunrise. Somewhere nearby, a flute begins playing a gentle melody. It is simple, peaceful, almost soothing enough to make you pause and simply listen. Music has always found a place wherever people gather. Even busy marketplaces carry moments of quiet beauty. Not everyone in the settlement spends the day trading. Many people continue ordinary work at home. Women prepare meals. Older children help fetch water from nearby wells or rivers. Grandparents watch younger family members while quietly weaving cloth or repairing baskets. Daily life is filled with small responsibilities. No single task seems especially important by itself, but together they create the rhythm of the community. Imagine peeking inside one of the homes. The space is modest but comfortable. Thick felt keeps out cold winds. Woven rugs cover the floor. Simple wooden chests hold clothing and treasured possessions. Cooking pots rest near a central hearth. Above them hangs dried meat, herbs, and bundles of onions stored for future meals. The smell is warm and welcoming. A small child sits quietly beside an older woman who is teaching careful stitches in a piece of cloth. Lessons like these happen every day. Knowledge is passed from one generation to the next, not through books alone, but through patient observation and gentle practice. Outside once again, the sun climbs higher into the sky. The settlement becomes busier. Wagons arrive carrying grain from nearby farming villages. Horse riders deliver messages. Travelers stop briefly before continuing along the great trade routes. Everyone seems connected by invisible threads of work, family, and friendship. There is no great rush. People know what needs to be done. The day unfolds naturally. As afternoon approaches, pleasant smells begin drifting from cooking fires. Fresh bread, warm stew, roasted fish, milk slowly warming in clay pots. Neighbors greet one another as they prepare for the midday meal. Some families eat together beneath the shade of simple wooden shelters. Others sit outside their homes, enjoying the gentle breeze. Children continue playing long after they finish eating, inventing games with sticks, stones, and endless imagination. The laughter of children sounds much the same in every century. It reminds us that although the world changes, many simple joys remain familiar. As the sun slowly begins its gentle journey toward the western horizon, golden light spreads across the settlement. The carpenter finishes his final piece for the day. The blacksmith allows his fire to cool. Merchants count their coins before covering their goods for the evening. Animals return from nearby fields. Smoke rises once again from hundreds of cooking fires. The peaceful settlement prepares for another quiet night beneath the stars. Our slow walk through this small town has shown us something important. The strength of the Khazar Khaganate did not come only from kings or soldiers. It grew from ordinary people, from craftsmen whose hands shaped useful tools, from merchants who welcomed strangers, from families who cared for one another, from children who learned patiently from their elders. These peaceful settlements formed the heart of the kingdom. And tomorrow, our gentle journey will continue toward one of the greatest and busiest places in the Khazar world, a remarkable capital where rivers, merchants, diplomats, and travelers from distant lands came together in ways that amazed everyone who visited. For now, the evening breeze grows cooler. The stars begin their slow return above the endless steppe. And with another calm day behind us, we quietly continue our journey into the living heart of the Khazar Khaganate. The first light of dawn arrives gently once again. A pale golden glow stretches across the eastern horizon, touching the endless grasslands with soft warmth. The cool air still carries the freshness of the night, and tiny drops of dew sparkle like little crystals upon every blade of grass. Our small journey continues. The peaceful settlement we visited yesterday slowly disappears behind us, becoming only a faint collection of rooftops and rising smoke on the distant horizon. Ahead lies a road that many thousands of travelers have followed before us. It is not paved with stone. There are no signposts pointing the way. Instead, the road has been shaped by countless wagon wheels, horses' hooves, and steady footsteps over many generations. Every traveler has added another small mark to its path. Imagine riding quietly beside a broad river. The water flows with calm confidence, never hurrying, never stopping. White birds stand patiently in the shallow water, waiting for fish to swim close enough to catch. Tall reeds bend gently whenever the morning breeze passes through them. Somewhere ahead, hidden beyond a bend in the river, waits one of the most remarkable cities of the medieval world. Its name is Idil. For many travelers, simply reaching Idil was the goal of a journey lasting many months. Merchants came hopping to sell valuable goods. Diplomats arrived carrying letters from distant rulers. Religious leaders traveled to meet communities that shared their faith. Craftsmen searched for better opportunities. Adventurers wished to see a city unlike any they had ever known. Imagine what it must have felt like after weeks of riding across endless plains. One morning, the horizon begins to change. Instead of open grass stretching forever, you notice clusters of buildings. Wooden docks appear along the riverbank. More boats glide through the water. The number of travelers steadily grows. The road becomes busier with every passing mile. You begin hearing many different voices. Some people greet one another warmly. Others bargain over the price of goods before they have even reached the marketplace. Children laugh while chasing one another beside loaded wagons. Dogs bark happily as new visitors arrive. The quiet countryside slowly gives way to the gentle sounds of a busy city. Historians believe that Idil stood near the lower reaches of the Volga River, close to where the mighty river flowed toward the Caspian Sea. This location made it one of the finest trading centers in the entire region. Almost everyone traveling between Northern Europe, Central Asia, the Islamic world, and parts of Eastern Europe eventually heard about this city. Some visited only once. Others returned year after year. Imagine climbing a small rise overlooking the river. From there, the city slowly reveals itself. Wooden buildings stand beside broad waterways. Many boats are tied along busy docks. Beyond them rise larger public buildings where officials carry out the work of the kingdom. Smoke curls gently from hundreds of cooking fires. Colorful tents stand beside permanent homes, reminding visitors that the Khazars never completely forgot their nomadic traditions. Even in their greatest city, the open steppe remained part of everyday life. One of the most unusual things about Idil surprised many foreign visitors. Instead of belonging to only one people or one religion, the city welcomed many different communities. Jewish merchants, Muslim traders, Christian travelers, followers of traditional steppe beliefs. People from many cultures lived side by side. Each community had its own customs, its own places of worship, its own festivals, its own traditions. This did not mean everyone always agreed. People have always had different opinions. Yet compared with many kingdoms of the same period, Italy was known for allowing remarkable religious diversity. Travelers often wrote about this with genuine surprise. Imagine entering one of the city gates. A guard watches each arrival carefully but politely. He asks simple questions. Where have you traveled from? What goods are you bringing? How long do you plan to stay? After paying the proper taxes, merchants continue into the city without difficulty. These taxes helped support the kingdom. Roads were maintained. Officials were paid. Soldiers guarded important routes. The busy movement of trade benefited almost everyone. As we walk farther into the city, the streets become increasingly lively. Some are crowded with merchants, unloading heavy bundles from wagons. Others lead toward quieter neighborhoods, where families begin their ordinary morning routines. A woman sweeps dust from outside her doorway. A baker places fresh loaves upon a wooden shelf. The rich smell of warm bread drifts into the street. Nearby, a water seller fills clay jars for waiting customers. Nothing feels hurried. Busy, yes, but not rushed. Life follows its familiar rhythm. Imagine standing beside one of the docks. The river is alive with movement. Long boats arrive carrying thick bundles of valuable furs from northern forests. Another vessel unloads barrels filled with honey. A larger trading ship brings silk and fine cloth from lands thousands of miles away. Workers carefully carry every load onto waiting wagons. Each package is counted. Each payment is recorded. Every transaction matters. Trade depends upon trust. A merchant whose reputation is honest will always find more customers than one known for cheating. In a city like Italy, reputation becomes as valuable as silver. Now let us wander toward the heart of the marketplace. The air feels wonderfully alive. Bright fabrics hang from wooden stalls, gently moving in the breeze. Copper cooking pots shine beneath the morning sun. Jewelry catches tiny flashes of light whenever someone walks past. Bundles of fragrant herbs fill the air with pleasant scents. A spice merchant smiles as curious visitors stop to examine his goods. There is cinnamon, black pepper, cumin, dried mint. Many people living here will never visit the distant lands where these plants grow. Yet through trade, their flavors have become part of everyday life. Nearby stands a bookseller. His collection is small compared with modern libraries, yet each handwritten manuscript represents weeks or even months of careful work. Books are precious. They are copied by hand. Mistakes are corrected patiently. Learning is respected because knowledge itself is valuable. A scholar quietly examines one manuscript while discussing history with another visitor. Their conversation drifts softly through the air. A few streets away, craftsmen continue their work. Leather workers cut strong hides into belts and saddles. Weavers patiently guide wool through wooden looms. Metalworkers shape silver into delicate ornaments. Glass beads sparkle inside small wooden boxes. Every craft requires patience. There are no machines, only skilled hands, careful eyes, and years of experience. Imagine pausing beside a small public square. A storyteller has gathered a modest audience. Children sit closest. Adults stand quietly behind them. His voice rises and falls gently as he tells an old tale passed down through generations. Perhaps it speaks of brave riders crossing the steppe. Perhaps it tells of wise rulers or clever merchants. No written record may ever preserve this story. Yet tonight it lives perfectly within the memories of everyone listening. This is how many traditions survive. One voice at a time. As afternoon approaches, the city grows warmer. Shadows become shorter. The streets remain busy. Messengers ride through carrying official letters. Travelers ask for directions. Visitors search for places to rest before continuing longer journeys. Some will remain only one night. Others will settle here for years. A city built upon trade is always changing. New faces appear. Old friends depart. The flow never truly ends. Yet despite all this movement, there is a remarkable feeling of order. The city functions because thousands of ordinary people quietly perform ordinary tasks. Boatmen unload cargo. Sweepers clean the streets. Bakers prepare tomorrow's bread. Guards watch the gates. Children fetch water. Craftsmen repair broken tools. Each person contributes something small. Together, those small efforts keep the great city alive. As the afternoon slowly softens into evening, golden sunlight reflects across the broad Volga River. The boats rock gently against their moorings. Merchants close their stalls. Families gather for the evening meal. The sounds of bargaining gradually fade, replaced by quieter conversations drifting from homes and courtyards. Smoke rises peacefully into the calm evening sky. Standing here beside the river, it is easy to understand why Idil became the beating heart of the Khazar Khaganate. It was more than a capital. It was a meeting place, a bridge between worlds, a city where rivers carried not only goods, but also ideas, languages, beliefs, and friendships across thousands of miles. And as darkness slowly settles over the water, lamps begin glowing in windows throughout the city. Their warm light reflects softly upon the quiet river. Tomorrow, as another peaceful morning arrives, we will step beyond the busy markets and docks to discover the people who ruled this remarkable kingdom, learning how the Khazars governed such a vast and diverse land with a system unlike almost any other in the medieval world. The night passes gently. One by one, the stars fade into the pale blue of early morning. A cool mist rises from the broad waters of the Volga, softening the outlines of boats resting quietly along the docks of Idil. The city has not yet fully awakened. Only a few people are already at work. A fisherman unties the rope, holding his small boat to the wooden pier. A baker places fresh pieces of wood into the oven, preparing for another day. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster announces the coming sunrise. The streets remain peaceful. This quiet hour belongs to those who rise before the crowds. Imagine taking a slow walk through the still sleeping city. The air feels cool against your face. You hear gentle footsteps instead of busy conversations. The marketplace that seemed so lively yesterday now stands almost empty. Tables are covered. Stalls remain closed. Only the scent of yesterday's spices still lingers faintly in the morning air. As the first rays of sunlight reach the rooftops, another part of the city also begins its daily work. This is the place where the kingdom is governed. Many visitors expected to find a ruler much like the kings they had known elsewhere. Perhaps they imagined a powerful monarch who made every decision personally. But the Khazar Khaganate worked in a rather different way. Its government surprised many foreign travelers. At the very top of the kingdom stood a ruler known as the Khagan. To the people of the steppe, the Khagan was more than an ordinary king. He represented the unity of the entire realm. His position carried deep respect. Many believed that his presence helped maintain harmony between the people, the land, and even the heavens above. Because of this, the Khagan often lived a life surrounded by ceremony. Foreign visitors rarely met him directly. His appearances were carefully planned. His words carried great importance. Some travelers even wrote that ordinary people almost never saw him. Whether every detail of these stories is true is difficult to know. Travelers sometimes enjoyed making distant kingdoms seem even more mysterious. Yet it is clear that the Khagan occupied a very special place in Khazar society. Imagine approaching the royal district of Idil. The buildings here are larger than those we visited yesterday. Guards stand quietly at important entrances. They do not appear threatening. Instead, they watch carefully, making sure that daily life continues peacefully. Messengers arrive throughout the morning. Some have ridden hundreds of miles. Their horses are tired from long journeys. They carry carefully sealed letters, reports from distant towns, news from border settlements, messages from foreign rulers. The kingdom stretches across a vast territory. Keeping everyone connected requires constant communication. But here is where the Khazar system becomes especially interesting. Although the Khagan stood above everyone else in honor and dignity, much of the everyday work of governing was carried out by another ruler. This leader was often called the Bek, or sometimes the Khagan Bek. If the Khagan represented the spirit and unity of the kingdom, the Bek handled many practical matters. He directed the army. He supervised officials. He responded to threats. He managed diplomacy. He solved problems that arose throughout the realm. In many ways, the Khagan and the Bek worked together like two halves of one government. It was an unusual arrangement. Few kingdoms divided authority in quite the same way. Imagine sitting quietly beneath the shade of a tree inside the royal courtyard. Officials move calmly from one building to another. One carries tax records written neatly upon parchment. Another brings reports from merchants arriving along the Volga. A messenger bows respectfully before handing over a sealed document. Nothing feels hurried. Good government often depends upon patient organization rather than loud displays of power. The Bek listens carefully to advisors. Questions are discussed. Information is compared. Only then are decisions made. The Khazar rulers understood that governing such a large and diverse kingdom required cooperation. No single person could know everything happening across thousands of miles. Advice mattered. Experience mattered. Reliable messengers mattered. Imagine how difficult communication was during this time. There were no telephones, no radios, no printed newspapers, no instant messages. If something happened in a distant settlement, someone had to ride there on horseback. Then another rider carried the report back. A journey that today might take only a few hours could require many days or even weeks. Patience was part of leadership. Quick decisions were not always possible. As the city continues waking around us, officials begin receiving visitors from many different communities. A merchant wishes to settle a disagreement over the price of goods. A village elder requests permission to repair a damaged river crossing. A military officer reports that a group of travelers safely reached the border after crossing difficult country. Each matter may seem small by itself, yet together they form the daily life of the kingdom. Not every visitor is a Khazar. One of the remarkable features of the Khaganate was the variety of people living within its borders. Different languages echoed through official halls just as they did in the marketplaces. Interpreters often helped people understand one another. Diplomacy required careful listening. Misunderstood words could create unnecessary problems. Clear communication was as valuable as a sharp sword. Imagine a foreign ambassador arriving from a distant kingdom. His clothing is unlike that of local officials. He carries gifts from his ruler, perhaps fine silk, perhaps beautifully crafted silver, perhaps rare spices. He bows respectfully before presenting a carefully written letter. Hospitality requires that he be welcomed politely. The Khazars understood the importance of maintaining friendly relationships whenever possible. Trade depended upon peace. Peace encouraged prosperity. War interrupted both. Of course, the Khazar rulers also understood that peace sometimes required strength. Although tonight we are not focusing on battles, the kingdom maintained a well-organized military. Its soldiers protected trade routes. They guarded river crossings. They watched the borders. Their presence reassured merchants traveling long distances with valuable cargo. Imagine looking beyond the city walls. Small groups of mounted riders practice guiding their horses across the open plain. Their movements are calm and disciplined. Horse riding is second nature to many of them. From childhood, they learned balance, patience, and confidence in the saddle. A messenger gallops toward the city, delivering fresh news from another province. Within moments, officials begin reading his report. Information never stops flowing. Just like the rivers surrounding Idil, news moves steadily throughout the kingdom. As midday approaches, the royal district becomes busier. Scribes sit at wooden tables, copying important documents. Each letter must be written carefully. Ink is precious. Parchment is expensive. Mistakes cannot simply be erased. Every page reflects patience and concentration. Nearby, accountants quietly count silver coins collected as taxes. Others record payments made by merchants entering the city. These funds help maintain roads, river crossings, and government services. Running a kingdom requires more than soldiers and rulers. It also requires careful bookkeeping. Imagine speaking with one of these scribes. His fingers are stained with ink. He smiles kindly while explaining that writing is slow work. Every document may someday become important. Future officials might need to read today's records many years later. Accuracy matters. A single missing number could cause confusion. Careful writing protects the kingdom from unnecessary disputes. Outside, life continues as usual. Children laugh in nearby streets. Boats continue arriving along the river. Merchants bargain in the marketplace. The ordinary rhythm of the city goes on, while its leaders quietly carry out their responsibilities. Perhaps that is one of the greatest signs of successful government. When everything functions well, most people simply live their lives without thinking very much about it. As afternoon sunlight fills the royal courtyard, the day's meetings gradually come to an end. Officials gather their papers. Messengers prepare for long rides home. Visitors thank those who have listened to their concerns. The Beck withdraws to continue discussing tomorrow's work with trusted advisors. The Khagan remains, as always, a figure of quiet dignity, representing the unity of a kingdom stretching from river to steppe. As the evening breeze begins to cool the city once more, we leave the halls of government behind. Our slow walk has shown us that the Khazar Khaganate was not held together by force alone. It was supported by organization, by patient administration, by trusted messengers, by careful record keepers, by leaders who understood that ruling a diverse land required both wisdom and balance. Tomorrow, we will continue our gentle journey by meeting the people who served these rulers, everyday officials, guards, judges, and advisors, whose quiet work helped keep one of the medieval world's most fascinating kingdoms running smoothly from sunrise to sunset. Morning has now fully arrived over the city of Idil. The golden sunlight reaches every corner of the rooftops, warming the wooden walls that were cool only a short while ago. The mist above the Volga has slowly disappeared, leaving the river smooth and bright beneath the clear sky. The city is awake. Boats gently bump against the docks. Merchants begin opening their stalls. Children hurry along narrow streets, carrying small baskets for their families. The smell of fresh bread drifts once again through the morning air. Yesterday, we spent our time learning about the Khagan and the Bek, the two important leaders who shared responsibility for guiding the Khazar Khaganate. Today, instead of standing beside the rulers themselves, let us quietly step into the lives of the many people whose work helped the kingdom function every single day. History often remembers kings. It remembers famous battles. It remembers victories and defeats. Yet behind every ruler stood hundreds of ordinary people, whose names have long been forgotten. Without them, no kingdom could survive. Imagine entering one of the government buildings just after sunrise. The rooms are simple. Wooden beams support the roof. Light enters through small windows, falling across sturdy tables covered with scrolls, wax tablets, and neatly stacked sheets of parchment. Several officials have already begun their work. One carefully unrolls a document sent from a settlement many days away. Another compares tax records from the previous season. Nearby, a young assistant gently brushes dust from shelves holding older records. The room is quiet. Only the soft scratching of reed pens upon parchment breaks the silence. These officials are not warriors. They are not wealthy merchants. Their strength comes from patience, careful thought, and honesty. Many have spent years learning how to read and write clearly. In a time when many ordinary people could not read, these skills were highly respected. A single mistake in an official record could create confusion for an entire village. A missing payment, an incorrect name, a forgotten agreement. Small errors sometimes became large problems. So every line is written slowly. Every number is checked more than once. Imagine sitting beside one of these scribes. His ink pot rests carefully near his hand. His reed pen moves steadily across the page. He pauses often, not because he is tired, but because he wishes to be certain every letter is correct. Outside, the city is full of movement. Inside this quiet room, time seems to pass much more slowly. There is something peaceful about careful work. It asks for complete attention. It rewards patience. The Khazar government depended greatly upon trusted messengers. Imagine a rider arriving after several days upon the open steppe. Dust covers his boots. His horse breathes heavily after the long journey. The messenger removes a carefully wrapped leather pouch from his saddle. Inside lies a letter sealed with wax. Perhaps it contains news that a bridge has been damaged after heavy rain. Perhaps a caravan safely reached the border. Perhaps officials in a distant town request more supplies before winter arrives. The messenger hands over the letter with great care. His task is complete. Now another person's work begins. An official gently breaks the wax seal. The message is read aloud. Several advisors quietly discuss what should happen next. Should workers be sent to repair the bridge? Should soldiers escort the next caravan? Should food be moved before snow blocks the roads? No decision is made in haste. Each choice affects many people. Good leadership often begins with careful listening. Imagine another visitor waiting patiently outside. He is the elder of a small riverside village. His beard has turned gray after many years. He removes his cap respectfully before entering. He wishes to discuss a disagreement between two neighboring families. Perhaps the matter concerns grazing land. Perhaps fishing rights along a small river. These problems may appear small compared with matters of war or diplomacy. Yet to the families involved, They are deeply important. A peaceful solution is worth seeking. The officials listen without interrupting. Questions are asked gently. Both sides are given an opportunity to speak. Justice, even in the medieval world, often depended upon hearing every voice before reaching a decision. Of course, no government was perfect. Mistakes happened. People sometimes disagreed with official judgments. Human beings have always carried different opinions. Yet many travelers who visited the Khazar Khaganate noticed that the kingdom placed considerable value upon maintaining order through discussion as well as authority. Now let us step outside once more. The streets have become livelier. Guards stand at important crossings. They wear practical clothing suited for riding and long hours outdoors. Their weapons remain close at hand, but most of their day passes peacefully. Many spend more time giving directions than drawing swords. A merchant asks which road leads toward the southern docks. A traveler wonders where foreign visitors may spend the night. A child has become separated from his parents in the busy marketplace. The guard helps calmly. His work is not only to protect, it is also to serve the community. Imagine speaking with one of these guards. He smiles warmly while resting one hand upon his horse's neck. He explains that most days are quiet. The greatest reward is ending each evening knowing that everyone returned home safely. Sometimes the finest success is the absence of trouble. As midday approaches, the royal kitchens become busy. Although history often focuses upon rulers seated at grand tables, many hardworking people prepare every meal. Cooks knead bread. Others stir large pots filled with vegetables, grains, and meat. Water carriers move steadily between wells and kitchens. Servants arrange wooden bowls and simple cups. Nothing appears extravagant. The work is practical. Meals must feed many people every day. Organization matters here as much as it does inside government offices. Nearby, stable workers care for the horses belonging to officials and messengers. They brush dusty coats. They check hooves for stones. Fresh hay is carried into wooden stalls. Clean water is poured into large troughs. Without healthy horses, messages would travel slowly. The kingdom depends upon these quiet workers just as much as it depends upon its leaders. Imagine watching a farrier carefully replace a worn horseshoe. He lifts the horse's hoof gently, speaking softly throughout his work. The animal stands calmly. Years of experience have taught both horse and craftsman to trust one another. Nearby, a young apprentice watches every movement carefully. One day he will perform this same work himself. Knowledge passes quietly from one generation to the next. No classroom is needed. Only patient observation. As afternoon sunlight fills the city, another important group begins its daily duties. These are the interpreters. Because so many languages are spoken throughout the Khazar Khaganate, communication sometimes requires skilled translators. Imagine standing in a meeting between an Arab merchant, a Turkic official, and a visiting Greek trader. Each speaks a different language. The interpreter listens carefully. He repeats each sentence with patience and accuracy. His words help prevent misunderstanding. A single incorrect translation could damage an important agreement. Trust rests upon his careful memory. It is remarkable to think that an entire trade partnership may depend upon one person's ability to choose the right words. As the day slowly moves toward evening, the city's rhythm begins to soften. Government offices close one by one. Documents are tied neatly with cord and placed inside wooden chests. Ink pots are covered to prevent them from drying. Tables are carefully cleaned. Tomorrow's work is already waiting. Outside, The evening market continues for a little while longer. Children laugh as they carry fresh bread home. Neighbors stop to exchange friendly greetings. A group of musicians begins playing gentle melodies near the riverside. Their quiet music floats across the water with the evening breeze. Imagine sitting upon a wooden bench overlooking the Volga. The river reflects the golden colors of the setting sun. Boats return slowly to the docks. Birds glide low above the calm water. The city, though still alive with activity, feels more peaceful than it did only a few hours before. As you watch the people returning home, it becomes clear that the Khazar Khaganate was supported by countless ordinary hands. Not only rulers, not only soldiers, but scribes who copied records, messengers who crossed endless miles, guards who watched peaceful streets, stable workers who cared for faithful horses, interpreters who built understanding between strangers, cooks who prepared warm meals, craftsmen who repaired tools before they broke. Each person carried only a small part of the kingdom upon their shoulders. Together, those small efforts created something strong enough to endure for centuries. The greatness of a kingdom is rarely found only in its palaces. More often, it lives quietly in the ordinary work of ordinary people. As the last light fades behind the western horizon and the first stars begin to appear above Idil, our gentle walk through the halls of government comes to a peaceful close. Tomorrow, we will leave the offices behind and step into another fascinating part of Khazar life, where ambassadors, merchants, and travelers from distant lands gathered to exchange not only goods, but ideas, beliefs, and friendships, making the Khazar Khaganate one of the medieval world's greatest meeting places between East and West. A new morning arrives with quiet grace. The eastern sky slowly changes from deep blue to soft shades of lavender and gold. A gentle breeze moves across the broad waters of the Volga, carrying the fresh scent of river reeds and damp earth. Along the docks, the first boats begin to stir, rocking softly as their owners prepare for another peaceful day. The city of Idil wakes little by little. Smoke rises from hundreds of cooking fires. The sound of wooden shutters opening drifts through the streets. A baker places warm loaves upon a shelf outside his shop. A fisherman mends a torn net while humming a quiet tune to himself. Children, still rubbing sleep from their eyes, help their parents sweep the ground outside their homes. The city greets another ordinary day. Yet today, something a little unusual is about to happen. Far beyond the city walls, a small group of riders appears upon the road. Their horses walk steadily after a long journey. Dust clings to their boots and cloaks. Behind them travel a pair of wagons carrying carefully wrapped chests. They are not merchants. They are not soldiers. They are ambassadors. Imagine standing beside the city gate as they approach. The guards notice them long before they arrive. No one raises a weapon. Instead, the visitors are greeted with calm courtesy. One guard steps forward and offers a respectful welcome. The leader of the travelers bows politely before presenting a sealed letter. It bears the mark of a distant ruler. The visitors have traveled many weeks to reach Idil. Their journey has crossed forests, rivers, open grasslands, and mountain passes. Now they have finally reached one of the most important capitals in the region. In the medieval world, travel was slow. A message sent between kingdoms might require many weeks or even several months to arrive. Because of this, every ambassador carried an important responsibility. He did not simply deliver a letter. He represented an entire kingdom. His manners mattered. His words mattered. Even the gifts he carried had meaning. Imagine watching the ambassadors enter the city. The streets are already becoming busy, but people politely step aside to let the visitors pass. Children look at them with wide, curious eyes. Their clothing is different. Their horses wear unfamiliar saddles. Some of the wagons are decorated with patterns, unlike anything commonly seen in Khazar lands. For many people in Idil, seeing foreign visitors is not unusual. The city welcomes travelers almost every day. Yet every new arrival brings another glimpse of the wider world. One ambassador may come from the great cities of the Islamic world, another from the Byzantine Empire, still another from the distant lands of the Rus, whose merchants travel the great rivers of the north. Each visitor brings not only goods and messages, but also news. News of harvests, news of distant rulers, news of changing trade routes, news of storms, floods, celebrations, and discoveries. Long before newspapers existed, travelers carried the world's stories from one place to another. Imagine entering the guest house prepared for important visitors. The rooms are simple but comfortable. Fresh water has been placed in large clay jars. Clean blankets have been carefully folded. Warm bread and bowls of stew wait upon sturdy wooden tables. Hospitality is more than simple kindness. It is an important part of diplomacy. A well-treated guest remembers that kindness. A poorly treated guest may carry an unhappy story home. The Khazars understood this very well. Throughout history, many travelers wrote that hospitality was highly valued across the steppe. Offering food, shelter, and protection to peaceful visitors was both practical and honorable. After resting from their journey, the ambassadors prepare for their meeting with the kingdom's officials. Imagine walking beside them through the streets. The marketplace is now full of activity. Merchants call politely to passing customers. The smell of roasting meat mixes with the sweet scent of honey cakes. Bright fabrics sway gently above the market stalls. Copper bowls reflect the morning sunlight. The ambassadors pause now and then, quietly observing the busy city. Perhaps they compare it with their own homes. Perhaps they notice similarities. Perhaps they are surprised by how many different languages they hear around them. Soon they reach the government quarter. Here the streets become quieter. Officials welcome the visitors with respectful bows. Interpreters stand nearby, ready to help whenever different languages create confusion. The meeting begins calmly. No one speaks loudly. No one rushes. Diplomacy is built upon patience. The ambassador presents his ruler's letter. A scribe carefully reads every line. The officials listen closely. Questions are asked politely. Replies are considered thoughtfully. Sometimes the discussions concern trade. A neighboring kingdom wishes to encourage more merchants to travel safely through Khazar territory. Sometimes the subject is peace. Two rulers hope to strengthen their friendship. At other times, the conversations concern shared problems. Bandits may have appeared along an important road. Flooding may have damaged a river crossing used by many traders. Perhaps travelers have reported a poor harvest in a neighboring region. Even distant kingdoms often faced similar challenges. Working together could benefit everyone. Imagine the gifts that accompany these conversations. One ambassador presents a beautifully woven silk cloth. Another offers finely crafted silver cups. Rare spices fill the air with warm, unfamiliar scents. Beautiful glass vessels sparkle in the sunlight. The Khazar officials respond with gifts of their own. Strong horses, fine leather, carefully worked jewelry, rich furs from the northern forests. These exchanges are not simply about wealth. They are symbols of respect. They remind both sides that friendship is valuable. As the discussions continue, interpreters quietly translate each sentence. They speak with great care. A single misunderstood word might change the meaning of an important agreement. Their work requires remarkable concentration. They must understand not only different languages, but also different customs. Every culture has its own way of expressing respect. Every greeting carries subtle meaning. Good interpreters become invisible bridges between worlds. Imagine standing quietly near one of the windows. Outside, life continues as usual. Children chase one another through the streets. A fisherman carries fresh fish toward the market. Women draw water from nearby wells. The ordinary rhythm of daily life continues, while important conversations quietly shape the future of the kingdom. Perhaps this is one of history's gentle lessons. Great events often happen while ordinary people simply continue living their everyday lives. By afternoon, the formal meeting comes to an end. Smiles are exchanged. Hands are clasped. Agreements are carefully written down by patient scribes. Seals of wax are pressed onto important documents. Copies are made for both sides. Nothing is left to memory alone. Clear records help prevent future misunderstandings. The ambassadors are then invited to enjoy the city's hospitality before continuing their journey. Imagine joining them for the evening meal. Long wooden tables are filled with simple but satisfying food. Fresh bread still warm from the oven. Roasted fish from the Volga. Tender lamb slowly cooked with onions and herbs. Soft cheeses made from sheep's milk. Bowls of barley porridge. Honey for sweetness. Dried fruits gathered during the previous summer. Clay cups filled with cool water and fermented milk pass quietly from hand to hand. Conversation flows gently. People speak of rivers they have crossed, cities they have visited, families waiting for them back home. Sometimes they laugh together over small misunderstandings from the road. Other times they fall into thoughtful silence while watching the fire. Although these people come from different kingdoms, they discover that many parts of life are shared. Everyone worries about long journeys. Everyone misses home after many weeks away. Everyone hopes for peaceful roads and good weather. Everyone enjoys a warm meal after a difficult day. As evening settles over Idil, the ambassadors step outside for a quiet walk beside the river. The water reflects hundreds of tiny lights from homes along the shore. Boats rest peacefully against the docks. The sounds of the busy marketplace have faded into gentle conversations drifting through the night air. Above them stretches a sky filled with countless stars. The same stars shine above every kingdom. Above the Khazars, above Byzantium, above the lands of the Arabs, above the northern forests. Perhaps travelers have always found comfort in knowing that no matter how far they wander, the night sky remains a familiar companion. As we end today's quiet walk, we begin to understand why the Khazar Khaganate became such an important meeting place. Its strength was not built only through armies or wealth. It grew because people from many different lands could meet here, speak with one another, exchange ideas, and return home carrying stories of friendship as well as trade. Tomorrow, as another peaceful sunrise spreads across the steppe, we will leave the halls of diplomacy behind and spend time with the mounted riders who guarded the roads, protected the caravans, and watched over the wide frontiers of this remarkable kingdom, ensuring that the peaceful life of Idil could continue day after day beneath the endless sky. The first light of another day spreads quietly across the Khazar lands. Long before the busy markets of Idil begin to fill with merchants, and before the first boats leave the wooden docks, the grasslands beyond the city are already awake. A cool breeze sweeps across the open steppe. The tall grass bends together like gentle waves upon a green sea. Small birds rise into the morning sky, circling above the river before disappearing toward distant reeds. Everything feels calm. Everything feels fresh. Imagine standing outside the city walls. Behind you, it slowly awakens. Ahead of you stretches an endless landscape of rolling grass, winding rivers, and distant hills fading into the morning mist. Here, the kingdom feels very different. There are no crowded streets, no market stalls, no workshops ringing with the sound of hammers. Only open land, wide skis, and the quiet rhythm of horses moving across the earth. Not far away, a group of mounted riders prepares to begin their day's patrol. These men are part of the kingdom's defense, yet they do not spend every hour expecting battle. Much of their work is surprisingly peaceful. Their duty is to watch, to travel, to observe, to protect. Imagine walking toward their camp. Several horses stand calmly beside simple wooden posts. Each animal has been carefully brushed before sunrise. Leather saddles have been checked. Bridles have been repaired where necessary. A rider gently runs his hand along the neck of his horse before fastening the last strap. There is no shouting, no hurried movement. The riders have performed these same tasks countless times before. Everything is done with quiet confidence. For the people of the Khazar Khaganate, the horse was not simply an animal. It was a lifelong companion. Many children learned to ride before they were old enough to help with many other chores. Growing up on the open steppe meant spending much of life in the saddle. A skilled rider could guide a horse almost as naturally as walking. Imagine watching one of the younger riders. He sits comfortably, hardly needing to think about balance. His horse responds to the lightest movement of his knees or the gentle touch of the reins. Years of practice have created complete trust between rider and animal. This partnership made life upon the steppe possible. Without horses, messages would travel slowly. Trade would become difficult. Families moving with their herds would struggle. The kingdom itself would feel much smaller. As the sun rises higher, the patrol quietly leaves the camp. The horses move at an easy pace. There is no need to hurry. Their route today follows one of the important trade roads leading toward the capital. Imagine riding with them. The cool morning air brushes gently against your face. The steady rhythm of hoofbeats becomes almost soothing. Far ahead, a long caravan slowly comes into view. Several wagons roll carefully across the grassland. Camels carry heavy bundles tied securely with rope. Horses pull carts filled with barrels, cloth, and wooden chests. Families travel together beside the merchants. Some children wave cheerfully as the riders approach. The patrol leader smiles and raises a hand in greeting. The merchants are pleased to see them. The presence of mounted guards brings reassurance. The roads are generally safe, but long journeys always carry uncertainty. A broken wagon wheel, a lost horse, sudden storms, flooded rivers, unexpected illness. The riders are prepared to help whenever possible. Imagine stopping beside the caravan. One wagon has developed a loose wheel. Several riders climb down from their horses and quietly lend a hand. Together they lift the heavy cart while the wheel is repaired. No payment is expected. Helping travelers benefits everyone. A caravan delayed today may carry supplies needed by another town tomorrow. The road connects every community. As the journey continues, the riders remain alert. They carefully observe the landscape. Fresh hoofprints crossing the road. Smoke rising far in the distance. Changes in the weather. The level of nearby rivers. Everything tells a story. Experience has taught them how to notice details that others might miss. One rider points toward the sky. Dark clouds are beginning to gather beyond the western hills. The patrol leader quietly decides to guide the caravan toward a nearby grove of trees before the afternoon rain arrives. This simple decision may save hours of difficulty later in the day. Knowledge of the land is just as valuable as courage. Imagine resting beneath those trees while a gentle rain begins to fall. Drops strike the leaves with a soft, steady rhythm. The horses stand peacefully, occasionally shaking water from their manes. The merchants unpack simple meals while waiting for the weather to pass. Warm bread, cheese, dried meat, a handful of nuts, cool water from leather bags. The riders eat alongside the travelers. Stories soon begin to flow as naturally as the nearby stream. One merchant speaks about the crowded markets of Baghdad. Another remembers the snowy forests far to the north. A young rider listens with quiet fascination. He has spent much of his life protecting these roads, but has never traveled beyond the borders of the Khaganate. The world seems wonderfully large. As the rain passes, sunlight returns. Tiny drops of water sparkle upon the grass. The air smells wonderfully fresh. The patrol mounts their horses once again. Their work continues. By afternoon they reach a small wooden watchtower standing upon a gentle hill. It is simple. Strong wooden beams support a raised platform overlooking the surrounding countryside. From here, a guard can see for many miles. Imagine climbing the narrow wooden ladder. The view is breathtaking. Rolling grasslands stretch toward every horizon. Thin rivers shine like silver threads beneath the afternoon sun. Tiny caravans appear as moving dots in the distance. The watchtower reminds us that protecting a kingdom often depends upon careful observation rather than constant fighting. Most days pass peacefully. The guards keep watch. Travelers continue safely. Merchants arrive where they intend to go. That quiet success rarely appears in history books, yet it is one of the greatest achievements any government can hope for. As the patrol continues its route, they stop briefly at a small border station. A few officials greet arriving travelers. Names are recorded. Taxes on valuable goods are collected politely. Questions are asked with respect. Where have you traveled from? How many wagons are in your caravan? Do you carry any messages for the capital? Everything is done calmly. Order creates confidence. Confidence encourages trade. Trade strengthens the kingdom. Imagine watching the riders care for their horses before evening. Saddles are removed. The animals are brushed until dust disappears from their coats. Fresh water is offered. Their hooves are checked carefully for small stones or injuries. Only after every horse has been cared for do the riders think about their own evening meal. There is quiet gratitude in these simple routines. The riders understand that tomorrow's journey depends upon today's careful work. As the sun slowly sinks toward the western horizon, the patrol returns to camp. A small fire is lit. The smell of cooking stew fills the cool evening air. Some riders quietly repair leather straps. Others polish bits of metal or sharpen simple tools. One older guard tells gentle stories to the younger men about roads he traveled many years ago. His voice is calm. The younger riders listen respectfully. Lessons are passed from one generation to another without books. Only memory, experience, and patient conversation beside a warm fire. Above them, the first stars begin appearing one by one. The horses graze peacefully nearby. The steppe grows wonderfully quiet. Looking across the endless grasslands, it becomes easy to understand why the Khazar riders became so respected. Their greatest victories were often invisible. A caravan reaching its destination safely. A bridge repaired before it collapsed. a traveler guided home after losing the road, a peaceful border that allowed families to sleep without fear. These quiet successes shaped everyday life far more than battles ever could. As another peaceful evening settles across the kingdom, our gentle ride comes to an end. Tomorrow, we will leave the patrol roads behind and visit the families who lived beyond the city walls, where shepherds, herders, and farmers followed the changing seasons, building their lives in harmony with the rivers, the grasslands, and the endless sky that stretched above the Khazar world. The stars slowly fade as another peaceful morning begins. For a little while, the sky is painted in quiet shades of deep blue, soft purple, and pale gold. The world seems to hold its breath before the first rays of sunlight gently touch the endless grasslands. The camp is still. Only the distant sound of grazing horses and the quiet murmur of a nearby stream break the silence. A gentle breeze carries the fresh scent of wild grass, damp earth, and last night's fatting campfire. Imagine opening your eyes inside a warm felt home. The walls around you are thick and soft, keeping the cool morning air outside. Above your head, a circular opening at the center of the roof allows the first light of dawn to slip quietly into the room. Small beams of sunlight slowly move across woven rugs spread upon the floor. The fire in the middle of the home has almost gone out. Only a few glowing embers remain. Soon someone carefully places another piece of dry wood upon the fire. Tiny flames begin dancing once again. Warmth slowly fills the room. Welcome to another ordinary morning in the Khazar Khaganate. Not everyone lived inside busy towns like Idil. Many families spent much of their lives upon the open steppe, moving with their animals as the seasons changed. Their homes were built for movement, strong enough to protect them from wind and snow, light enough to travel when fresh grazing land called. Today we often call these homes yurts. Among many Turkic peoples, they were known by different names, but the idea was much the same. A round wooden frame formed the walls. Long roof poles reached upward toward a circular opening at the top. Thick felt made from sheep's wool covered the outside. Ropes held everything tightly together against strong winds. From a distance, these homes looked simple, but inside they were warm, comfortable, and carefully arranged. Imagine sitting quietly near the fire. The smell of fresh wool fills the air. Beautiful, woven carpets cover the ground beneath your feet. Colorful blankets have been folded neatly against one wall. Wooden chests hold clothing, treasured family belongings, and carefully wrapped tools. Nothing is placed carelessly. Every object has its own place. Space is valuable. Everything must be packed when the family moves. Life on the steppe teaches people to keep only what they truly need. The family begins to wake. The oldest grandmother is already preparing the morning fire. She has done this almost every day for many years. Her hands move with calm confidence. She hardly needs to think about each step. Nearby, a young child rubs sleepy eyes before quietly wrapping a warm blanket around small shoulders. The child's mother begins preparing breakfast. She pours fresh milk into a clay pot. Nearby sits yesterday's bread, still soft enough to enjoy with honey. Another family member slices dried cheese into small pieces. Simple food. Honest food. Food that has carried generations through long journeys across the steppe. Imagine stepping outside the home. The morning feels wonderfully fresh. The grass is wet with dew. Tiny flowers open slowly beneath the rising sun. Several horses graze nearby, lifting their heads now and then to watch the family begin another day. Sheep move together in small groups. A few curious goats wander wherever they please. Dogs stretch lazily before beginning their own work of watching over the camp. Every member of the household has responsibilities. Even the youngest children help whenever they can. One child carries water from a nearby stream. Another gathers dry branches for the fire. An older brother checks the ropes holding several horses. His sister helps shake dust from blankets before folding them neatly inside the home. These are not difficult tasks. Yet together, they keep the family comfortable. Everyone contributes. No one is expected to do everything alone. Imagine watching the grandfather walk slowly through the camp. His beard has turned white after many winters. His steps are steady, though no longer as quick as they once were. Several children eagerly follow him. He pauses beside a young horse. Patiently, he explains how to approach the animal calmly. Never surprise it. Speak softly. Move slowly. Animals notice fear. They also notice kindness. The children listen carefully. Lessons upon the step are rarely taught inside classrooms. Instead, knowledge is shared through everyday life. A grandfather teaches horses. A grandmother teaches weaving. Parents teach cooking, herding, and travel. Children learn by watching, then by trying, then by practicing until every task becomes familiar. Imagine entering another nearby home. This family is busy preparing felt from freshly cleaned sheep's wool. Large bundles of wool lie spread across woven mats. The fibers are carefully washed and combed. Then warm water is sprinkled over them. Several people roll the wool tightly together. Back and forth they work. Slowly the soft fibers become dense and strong. This felt will become part of a new home. Or perhaps warm blankets for winter. Or thick saddle covers protecting horses during long journeys. Very little goes to waste. The sheep provide far more than meat. They offer wool for clothing, felt for shelter, milk for cheese and yogurt. Even their hides become useful leather. Life upon the steppe depends upon making full use of every resource nature provides. As the morning continues, the camp grows busier. Herds begin moving toward fresh grass. Older boys and girls ride out together, guiding sheep and goats across the open plain. The adults watch for a moment before returning to their own work. Trust comes gradually. Children earn greater responsibility as they grow. By their teenage years, many are already skilled riders and capable herders. Imagine following one small group as they guide animals across the rolling hills. The horses move confidently. The children speak quietly to one another. Occasionally they whistle gently or call to a wandering sheep. There is no shouting. The animals know these familiar voices. The grasslands stretch endlessly before them. Clouds drift slowly across the wide sky. It is peaceful work. Quiet work. Work shaped by the rhythm of nature rather than clocks. By midday, the sun shines warmly overhead. The family gathers once again beneath the shade of a simple cloth stretched between two wagons. Lunch is modest. Fresh cheese, flat bread, a bowl of warm soup made from grains and herbs, cool fermented milk served in wooden cups. Conversation flows gently. No one seems hurried to finish eating. Meals are moments of rest as much as nourishment. Imagine listening to the family stories. The grandfather remembers winters when snow covered the grass for many weeks. The grandmother laughs while recalling a horse that once wandered into a neighbor's camp and refused to leave. The children tell excited stories about a fox they spotted that morning near the river. No story is especially grand. None needs to be. Ordinary memories become family treasures. As afternoon arrives, work begins once more. Some women continue, weaving colorful patterns into cloth. The bright reds, blues, and deep browns stand out beautifully against the pale grasslands. Nearby, a young man repairs a leather saddle that has served faithfully for many seasons. An elderly woman hums a quiet melody while spinning wool into thread. The song has probably been sung for generations. Perhaps no one remembers who first created it. Yet it continues, carried gently from voice to voice across the centuries. The breeze grows cooler as the afternoon slowly becomes evening. The herds return. The sheep gather safely near the camp. Horses are watered. Goats settle quietly for the night. The smell of cooking stew once again fills the evening air. Children, tired after a full day outdoors, sit close beside the fire. The sky slowly changes from golden light to deep blue. One bright star appears, then another. Soon the heavens are filled with countless points of light. Imagine lying upon a soft blanket just outside the family's home. Above you stretches one of the clearest night skies imaginable. Without cities filled with electric lights, every constellation shines brilliantly. The Milky Way arches overhead like a glowing river of stars. The children point upward, while the grandfather quietly names familiar constellations. These stars have guided travelers for countless generations. They are companions upon every long journey. As the fire burns lower, voices become softer. One by one, family members quietly wish one another good night before disappearing inside their warm felt homes. The camp slowly falls silent. Only the gentle sound of insects, grazing horses, and the whisper of the evening wind remains. Looking around this peaceful camp, it becomes easy to understand that home is not always built from stone walls or grand buildings. Sometimes home is wherever family gathers, where laughter is shared, where stories are remembered, where kindness is offered, and where, beneath the endless sky of the Khazar steppe, another quiet day comes gently to its end. Tomorrow, we will continue our slow journey by spending an entire day with these families, discovering how they raised children, celebrated joyful occasions, cared for their elders, and built strong communities that could thrive across the wide and beautiful grasslands of the Khazar world. A soft breeze moves across the camp as the first light of morning quietly returns. The stars that filled the sky only a few hours ago slowly disappear, one after another, as dawn spreads gentle shades of gold across the endless steppe. The cool air feels fresh, carrying with it the scent of wild herbs, damp grass, and the faint smoke of a fire that never completely went out during the night. The family is already beginning another day. The horses have stirred from their rest. A sheep calls softly somewhere beyond the tents. A dog stretches beside the dying embers before trotting away to greet the morning. Imagine stepping outside the family's felt home. The ground is still cool beneath your feet. Tiny drops of dew sparkle on every blade of grass, catching the first rays of sunlight like thousands of little jewels. The camp feels peaceful. No loud voices. No rushing footsteps. Only the slow rhythm of another ordinary day beginning. Today, let us spend our time with the youngest members of the Khazar world. History often tells us about rulers, warriors, and merchants. Yet every one of those adults was once a child. Every great writer first learned to sit upon a small pony. Every skilled craftsperson first watched an older pair of hands at work. Every wise elder once looked at the world with curious eyes. Imagine a little boy stepping out of the tent while still wrapped in a warm wool blanket. He rubs his sleepy eyes before smiling as he sees the family horses grazing nearby. His younger sister follows close behind. She carries a small wooden cup almost too large for her hands. Their grandmother laughs gently and helps fill it with fresh goat's milk. The children sit quietly together while watching the sunrise. For them, this beautiful morning is perfectly ordinary. It is simply home. Children growing up on the steppe learned very early that every member of the family had something important to contribute. Their responsibilities were small at first. A young child might gather dry twigs for the fire. Another could help collect eggs if the family kept birds. Some carried drinking water from a nearby stream. Others watched younger brothers and sisters, while adults completed more demanding work. These tasks were never meant to burden them. Instead, they slowly taught confidence. A child who helped every day gradually became an adult who knew exactly how to care for both family and community. Imagine following two young brothers as they walk toward the grazing animals. Their father walks beside them, speaking quietly. He does not hurry his lessons. One day he points toward the clouds. "See how they move," he says softly. When clouds gather in that direction, rain often follows before evening. Another day, he kneels beside a set of hoofprints pressed into soft earth. He explains how to tell whether they belong to a horse, a deer, or a wandering wolf. Nothing is written down. The land itself becomes the classroom. The children learn by looking, by listening, by asking gentle questions, by making small mistakes that become valuable lessons. Imagine another group of children sitting beside their grandmother. She has spread freshly washed wool across a woven mat. Patiently, she shows them how to separate the soft fibers with careful fingers. The youngest child tries very hard, but creates a tangled knot instead. For a moment, the little one looks disappointed. The grandmother only smiles. She gently untangles the wool and says, "Every pair of hands learns slowly." Then they begin again. There is no anger, no sharp voice, only quiet encouragement. Perhaps this is one reason traditional skills survived for so many generations. Learning was woven naturally into everyday life. Every chore became a lesson. Every season brought something new to understand. As the morning grows warmer, laughter begins to echo across the camp. Several children have gathered near a shallow stream. They float tiny pieces of bark upon the water, pretending they are great trading ships sailing toward distant kingdoms. One child announces that his boat carries silk from the east. Another claims hers is filled with honey from northern forests. A third proudly declares that his tiny boat belongs to the fastest merchant in all the Khazar lands. The game is simple, yet it quietly reflects the world around them. Children often imitate the lives they see. Merchant children pretend to trade. Herders pretend to guide sheep. Young riders race imaginary horses across open fields. Play becomes another form of learning. Imagine watching an older girl teaching her younger brother how to ride. The pony chosen for the lesson is calm and gentle. She holds the reins while he carefully climbs into the saddle. At first he grips tightly, looking a little uncertain. The pony takes only a few slow steps. His sister smiles kindly. "Sit a little straighter," she says. "Let the horse feel that you trust him." Little by little, the boy relaxes. Soon he begins smiling too. For children of the steppe, learning to ride was almost as important as learning to walk. A horse offered freedom. It allowed families to travel. It helped protect herds. It carried messages across great distances. A child who became comfortable in the saddle gained an important skill for life. By midday, the warm sun stands high above the grasslands. The children return to camp for lunch. Flatbread is broken into small pieces. Fresh cheese is passed around. Bowls of warm stew are shared among family members. Nobody eats alone unless they choose to. Meals are moments when stories are exchanged as freely as food. One child proudly tells everyone about finding a bird's nest hidden among tall grass. Another laughs while describing how a playful goat stole part of his breakfast. The adults listen with genuine interest. Small stories matter. They remind everyone that each day brings new little adventures. After the meal, the hottest hours of the afternoon encourage a slower pace. Some children nap inside the cool shade of the felt homes. Others sit quietly beside older relatives. Imagine an elderly grandfather carving a small wooden toy horse. His knife moves carefully. Tiny curls of wood fall gently onto the ground. A curious granddaughter watches every movement. Finally, he places the finished toy into her hands. She smiles with quiet delight. Perhaps she will keep it for many years. Perhaps one day she will show it to her own children. Simple gifts often become precious memories, not because they are expensive, but because they are made with love and patience. As the afternoon cools, the children help bring the animals back toward camp. The youngest walk beside the sheep. Older boys and girls ride quietly behind the herd, making sure no animal wanders too far away. The work feels almost effortless now. They have practiced these routines since they were very small. Each evening follows a familiar pattern. The animals return. Water is collected. The fire is prepared. Supper slowly cooks. The steady rhythm of daily life brings comfort. Imagine the family gathering after the evening meal. The sky has become a deep velvet blue. Stars begin appearing one by one. A grandmother starts singing an old lullaby. Her voice is soft, gentle. The melody drifts across the quiet camp. No one knows exactly how old the song is. Perhaps her own grandmother once sang the very same tune. Perhaps it has traveled across the steppe for hundreds of years. The children grow sleepy. One little girl rests her head against her mother's shoulder. A small boy quietly yawns while trying very hard to stay awake for just one more story. The grandfather smiles as he begins speaking. Tonight he tells of a wise old horse that always found water during times of drought. The tale is calm and thoughtful. It teaches patience, kindness, and respect for nature. Stories like these are more than entertainment. They gently pass values from one generation to the next. As the fire burns lower, parents carry the youngest children inside the warm felt home. Blankets are pulled gently around small shoulders. The older children whisper quietly together before sleep slowly finds them too. Outside, the horses graze peacefully beneath the stars. The night breeze moves softly through the grass. Looking across the peaceful camp, it becomes clear that childhood in the Khazar world was closely tied to family, nature, and shared responsibility. There were no glowing screens, no classrooms filled with desks, no busy traffic. Instead, there were open skis, patient teachers, strong family bonds, simple games, meaningful work, and endless opportunities to learn from the land itself. As another quiet night settles across the steppe, the camp grows wonderfully still. The stars continue their slow journey overhead. The fire fades into glowing embers. And somewhere inside the warm felt homes, tomorrow's generation of writers, traders, storytellers, and craftspeople sleeps peacefully, dreaming beneath the same endless sky that watched over their ancestors for centuries. Tomorrow, our gentle journey will continue as we explore the celebrations, weddings, seasonal festivals, music, and joyful gatherings that brought families and neighbors together throughout the year, filling the wide grasslands of the Khazar Khaganate with laughter, songs, and unforgettable memories. Morning arrives slowly across the wide grasslands. A pale ribbon of light appears along the eastern horizon, gently pushing away the darkness of the night. The cool air carries the sweet smell of fresh grass mixed with the faint smoke from campfires that have burned quietly until dawn. The camp begins to stir. A horse shakes its long mane. Sheep gather close together before leaving to graze. Somewhere nearby, a kettle is already warming above a small fire. The day begins, as it always does, with simple and familiar routines. But today feels a little different. There is a quiet excitement in the air. People smile a little more than usual. Children whisper to one another before running off together. Women carry colorful bundles of cloth. Men straighten wooden poles near the center of the camp. Something special is about to happen. Imagine that you have arrived on a day of celebration. Perhaps a wedding. Perhaps a gathering of several families who have not seen one another for many months. Life upon the steppe often meant traveling with the seasons. Relatives could spend long periods separated by many miles of open grassland. When they finally met again, the occasion was filled with warmth, laughter, and shared memories. The arrival of visitors was always an important event. Imagine looking toward the distant horizon. A small line of riders slowly comes into view. At first, they are only tiny shapes beneath the enormous sky. Little by little, they grow larger. Soon you can see bright pieces of cloth tied to their wagons. Children notice them first. They're here, one calls happily. Without waiting another moment, several youngsters race across the grass to greet the arriving guests. The adults smile as they watch. Old friends wave to one another from horseback long before they are close enough to speak. There is no hurry. The journey has ended safely. Now there is time to enjoy one another's company. As the visitors arrive, greetings begin. Hands are clasped warmly. Older relatives embrace gently. Children who have grown taller since the last meeting are admired with happy surprise. Someone laughs while saying, "You were only this high the last time I saw you." The child grins proudly. Time has quietly done its work. Hospitality begins almost immediately. Fresh water is offered to every traveler. Horses are led toward good grazing. Warm food is placed before the guests before anyone asks about business or long journeys. Among many steppe peoples, caring for visitors came before almost everything else. A tired traveler deserved rest. Questions could wait. Imagine sitting beneath a large cloth canopy stretched to provide welcome shade. Wooden bowls filled with fresh bread are passed from hand to hand. Soft cheese made from sheep's milk rests beside small dishes of honey. Warm stew gently bubbles inside a large cooking pot. The smell is comforting. Simple ingredients have become a meal worthy of sharing. People eat slowly. Conversation flows naturally. One traveler describes crossing a river swollen by spring rains. Another tells of a marketplace filled with merchants from lands far beyond the Caspian Sea. An elderly uncle remembers a journey made many decades earlier. Each story is welcomed. Every traveler returns carrying new experiences. As the morning continues, preparations for the celebration become busier. Imagine watching several women carefully hanging brightly woven carpets along the sides of the largest tent. Their deep reds, rich blues, warm browns, and golden threads brighten the camp against the endless green grass. Nearby, younger family members arrange wooden benches and soft cushions for guests. Children gather wildflowers to decorate the entrance. No one speaks of creating something grand or luxurious. Instead, everyone works together to create something welcoming. Beauty often grows from care rather than wealth. Today, let us imagine that the gathering is a wedding. Although customs varied among different peoples living within the Khazar Khaganate, marriage was more than the joining of two individuals. It brought together families. Friendships became stronger. Communities grew closer. A wedding was not simply a private event. It belonged to everyone. Imagine the young couple preparing quietly. The bride's family helps arrange her clothing with great care. Fine woven fabrics have been saved for this special day. Beautiful embroidery decorates the edges of her garments. Simple silver jewelry catches the morning sunlight. Nothing feels excessive. Everything has meaning. Nearby, the groom adjusts his best tunic, while an older relative carefully checks the leather belt around his waist. Friends tease him gently. Laughter fills the air. Even important moments become lighter when shared with people who care for us. The ceremony itself is peaceful. Family members gather in a wide circle. Older relatives offer blessings and wise words. Good wishes are spoken for health, kindness, patience, and many happy years together. The couple listens respectfully. Marriage is understood as a partnership. Life upon the step requires cooperation. No family succeeds through the efforts of one person alone. Imagine the smile as the ceremony comes to its quiet conclusion. There is no loud cheering. Instead, warm embraces. Gentle congratulations. Kind words spoken softly. The celebration now begins in earnest. Musicians step forward carrying familiar instruments. One holds a long-necked lute. Another gently taps a small hand drum. A third lifts a simple wooden flute. The first notes drift into the afternoon air. The melody is calm, steady, comforting. Music has always held a special place in human life. It celebrates joyful moments. It eases difficult ones. It carries memories long after words have faded. Children begin dancing almost immediately. They need very little encouragement. Their laughter spreads quickly through the gathering. Soon, older brothers and sisters join them. Even grandparents smile as they clap gently in rhythm with the music. Imagine sitting quietly at the edge of the celebration. You notice how naturally every generation shares the day together. The youngest children chase one another through the grass. Teenagers help serve food to guests. Parents laugh while catching up with distant relatives. Grandparents tell stories beneath the shade of the tents. No one seems left behind. Everyone belongs. As afternoon turns toward evening, the feast begins. Large wooden bowls are placed upon long tables. Freshly baked bread, roasted lamb seasoned with herbs, fish brought from nearby rivers, creamy yogurt, soft cheeses, boiled grains, sweet honey, dried apricots and raisins carefully stored from earlier seasons. Nothing is wasted. Every family has contributed something. The meal becomes a symbol of the entire community working together. Imagine tasting a piece of warm bread dipped lightly in honey. Its sweetness is gentle. The fresh cheese beside it is cool and smooth. Nearby, someone pours fermented mare's milk into carved wooden cups, while others prefer fresh water or goat's milk. People eat slowly. There is no rush to finish. The best part of the meal is not only the food. It is the company. As the sun begins its slow journey toward the western horizon, the stories become even richer. One elderly woman remembers her own wedding many decades ago. She laughs while describing how her husband's horse wandered away just before the ceremony. The younger people laugh with her. Another man recalls an unusually harsh winter when neighboring families shared food until spring returned. These stories remind everyone that difficult times become easier when faced together. As twilight settles over the grasslands, the music changes. The lively melodies grow softer. The flute sings gentle notes carried away by the evening breeze. The stars begin appearing overhead. One by one, quietly, without asking for attention. Children who spent the day running and laughing now grow sleepy. Some rest against their parents. Others curl beneath warm blankets near the fire. The older guests continue talking in calm voices. The flames dance gently before them. Imagine looking around the gathering one last time. The warm glow of the campfires lights familiar faces. Friends sit shoulder to shoulder. Families share quiet conversation. The newly married couple smiles as relatives offer one final blessing before the evening comes to an end. Looking upon this peaceful celebration, it becomes clear that the strength of the Khazar people did not rest only in strong horses, successful trade, or wise rulers. It also rested in something much simpler: the love of family, the comfort of friendship, the willingness to share food with neighbors, the joy of music beneath an open sky, the patience to listen to old stories, and the happiness of welcoming every traveler as though they were part of the family. As the fire slowly burns lower and the last song fades into the quiet night, another beautiful day upon the steppe comes gently to its close. Tomorrow, we will continue our slow journey by stepping into the kitchens and cooking fires of the Khazar world, discovering the comforting foods, everyday meals, seasonal harvests, and simple recipes that nourished families through every season beneath the endless sky.